Hi, in this video we'll be setting your audio interface and preferences. First, click on Live, go to Settings. In the Look and Feel tab, under the Language and Behavior section, the first thing that you'll see here is Language. English is my preferred language and I'll be selecting that. You can select either one of this according to your preferences. You can restore don't show warnings by simply clicking on restore over here. Follow behavior. Follow behavior is going to be in the arrangement window. There are two different options. One is scroll, the other one is page. And I'm going to leave it just the way it is for now. And moving on to the next one, that is hide labels. When I hide this labels, as you can see, when I hide the label, as you can see on this particular audio track, the labels are hidden. Okay, when I show the label, I do see the audio is coming from external input. The monitoring is off right now and audio is going to master channel, that is right over here. Audio is going to master. Alright, when I click on hide, everything is hidden. Moving on to the next one, we got permanent scrub areas. I can either switch this on and off. This is permanent scrub area over here. As you can see, this is the permanent scrub area. If you switch that off, this permanent area will be gone. It won't be there. The next option we have is pen tablet mode. If you have a touchscreen laptop or a tablet, and if you have Ableton Live installed on it, this will work very well with you. You can either switch this off and on, and it's totally according to your preferences again. Moving on to the next one, we got track and clip colors. Okay, so as you can see here, every track has its own color. Okay, and it will automatically assign track colors. Default track color, you can select either one of this according to your preferences again. Clip color is going to be same as the track color. As you can see here, if I create a new clip, it is going to be same as the track color again. We are going to leave it off just the way it is. Reduced automatic colors, we are going to leave it off. Display customization. Under this section, I have dark theme selected and I'm going to keep it just the way it is. You can either select one of this according to your preferences. Any one of this. It is very simple. Now zoom display. This is going to be according to your preferences again. 100% works with me. I'm going to switch it back to 100. Brightness. Again, this is going to be according to your preferences. You can either increase the brightness or decrease it. All of this color intensity, color hue and grid line intensity is going to be according to your preferences. Grid line is set to 100% as of now, and as you can see here in this particular clip, the vertical lines, okay, if you turn it up to 200, the grid lines are very much visible. It's darker. 100 works with me. I'm going to keep it 100. The next tab is audio, and under the audio device section, the first thing that I have is driver type. Core audio is for Apple computers and ASIO is for Windows computers. It has to be only one driver type for everybody. Audio input device, You may find several options depending on how many devices are connected to your computer. Right now I'm recording through a built-in microphone that is connected to my computer, and that's why I have built-in microphone selected over here. And I also have a M track 2 in 2 out. That's the audio interface that I have, and I usually use this audio interface to connect any microphones or external instrument. And then we have audio output device, and you may have few options here as well. I have selected use system device here, and that simply means whatever devices are connected to my system, and according to my system preferences, everything will be auto populated and you don't have to worry about anything. Alright, so as you can see here, built-in output 0 in 0 in 2 out and stuff like that. And I also have my audio interface connected to this particular computer, and that's M track 2 in 2 out, and my monitors are connected to M track 2 in 2 out. In case if I want this particular audio to be routed there, I can select M track 2 in 2 out. Sample rate, again 48 kilohertz is what Ableton recommends you to have, and I'm going to keep it just the way it is. Default sample rate and pitch conversion again is going to be high quality. I'm going to keep it simple. You can switch it back to normal, but I would want all those audio files to be in high quality. Latency, in the latency section, Ableton recommends you to have 512 samples, and I'm going to keep it just the way it is. Input latency here, as you can see, is 10.7 milliseconds. It takes time for the audio to be processed and recorded in the system. So as you can see here, the signal flow takes time, and that is 10.07 milliseconds. The output latency again similarly has 12.8 milliseconds. Latency is nothing but the time it takes for the signal to travel. Driver error compensation, you can tweak here and try to compensate the driver, but then I wouldn't suggest you to do so. I'm going to keep it just the way it is. Here in the test section, as you can see, test tone is 0. Test volume, let's crank up the test volume, and after that we got tone frequency. You can simply check your speaker if your speakers are working fine with this frequencies and stuff. Moving on to the next tab, that is link tempo MIDI. Under the link section, the first thing that you will see is show link toggle. When this feature is turned on, a link switch will appear on the top left corner of Ableton Live. What is link switch and what is the purpose of this particular switch? We'll be using this feature to work seamlessly and efficiently with collaborators or different devices. This can be used to sync devices for live sets, collaborations, and many other applications. Here's an example. I have two versions of Ableton Live installed on this computer. If I have link switch enabled on both of them, as you can see here, there is one device linked and the beat clock is now in sync. When you press play on either version of Live, the other one will sync automatically, as the start stop sync is also enabled in our preferences. Let's go back to preferences, and you can see start stop sync is enabled. We'll cover this topic extensively during our MIDI sessions. The next thing that we have here is tempo follower. Show tempo follower toggle is turned on. You'll see the follow button on the top left corner next to link. When this switch is enabled, it will automatically detect the BPM or tempo of the live recording or external instrument that is connected. Right now, I have built-in microphone as the input device. As you can see here, the tempo is changing relatively with my voice. You can also select input channels from preferences to detect the tempo or BPM of a specific instrument or a track. BPM is nothing but beats per minute. The next section is MIDI. MIDI is musical instrument digital interface. All the MIDI devices that are connected to your computer will be listed here. Ableton automatically sets up the MIDI devices that are connected to your computer. In case your MIDI device is not listed here, you can manually set up your MIDI device from this drop-down menu. It will show you a list of compatible MIDI devices, and I hope you find your MIDI device here. Next thing we have is takeover mode. There are three options here: none, pickup, and value scaling. If you have none selected here, you don't have to worry about the value of the parameter or the knob. It will work just fine. The next thing, uh, if you have pickup selected here, the parameter that you will be controlling through the knob or the fader will not work or affect the parameter you're trying to control until and unless it reaches the value of the selected parameter. For example, let's say the parameter is set to 15% and the knob or the fader is at 100%. The fader or the knob will not affect the parameter until and unless it reaches 15%, and from there it will start affecting the value of the parameter. And this is how pickup works. Now, if you have value scaling selected here, the selected parameter that you will be controlling through a knob or a fader will start working immediately, inconsiderate of their values. We'll be covering this topic extensively during our MIDI sessions. Moving on to the next tab, that is File folder. Under the Data Handling section, we have Create, Analysis, Files. And it is turned on for now. Ableton will create analysis files for every sample that is loaded, whether it be a one-shot sample, short sample, or a long sample. This analysis file will be saved in the same location as the original file location and will usually be .ast file. The next thing that we have here is sample editor. I have selected Audacity from here. You can select your preferred sample editor from here. The next thing is temporary folder. This is the temporary folder for all of your live recordings. You can select a custom folder by clicking here. Max application. I have a bundled version of Max. That means I have the latest version that comes with Ableton Live. If your Max for Live application is stored on external hard drive, you can select the path by simply clicking here. The next thing is decoding cache. Minimum free space. Ableton recommends you to have at least 10 GB of minimum free space in order to work on a project efficiently. You can increase or decrease the minimum space required according to your preferences. Maximum cache size. It is turned on and Ableton recommends you to have at least 5 GB of space to store the cache files. You can increase or decrease the space according to your preferences. You can clean up the cache files by clicking here. You can also select a custom folder or create a new one to save your cache files. Moving on to the next tab, that is library. In the browser behavior section, we have collect files on export. It is set to always. This means every single time you export your projects, all the files, presets, samples will be saved in the project. I will recommend you to select always from the drop down menu to avoid loss of files, presets, or samples. The next thing that we have is show downloadable packs. When this is turned on, you can see downloadable packs here, and by double clicking it, you can start the downloading process. The next thing that we have is show cloud. When this is turned on, a cloud folder will be visible right below the packs, and you can access your files from cloud. Show push is also turned on. If you have a standalone push device, all the samples or the files stored in push will be visible here. This option is not accessible and faded as I do not have a compatible device. Content locations. Location of user library. This is the default path for user library where all the samples and presets are stored on your computer. You can select custom folder from here. Installation folder for packs. This is the default folder for the installation of factory packs. You can select a custom folder from here. The next tab is plugins. Plugin can either be a software instrument or an effect. There are two different types of plugins, VST and AU. Here in the plugins tab, the first section is plugin sources. Rescan plugins. You can rescan your plugins by clicking here on rescan. All the compatible plugins will automatically be listed on Ableton Live after the scanning process. Let's say you have installed a new plugin and that is not listed on Ableton Live plugins area that is located over here. All you have to do is click on rescan. Ableton will perform a quick scan and will list all the VST and AU plugins here in the plugins area. Next thing that we have is use audio units version 2, version 3, VST2 and VST3. You can either switch on or off the use of audio units or VST plugins by clicking here. If your VST plugins are stored on an external drive or anywhere else on your computer, you can select custom folder for your VST2 or VST3 plugins from here. In the plugin Windows section, open multiple windows. When this feature is turned on, you can view, tweak, or work on multiple plugins simultaneously. As you can see here, okay. So the next thing that I have is auto hide plugin windows. When this is turned on, Let's say I have multiple plugins on track 1 or track 2. All of them are visible when track 2 is selected, but when I select track 1, all of those plugins will disappear. I'm going to select track 2 again, and as you can see, those plugins have reappeared on my screen. Okay. Now, the next thing that I have here is auto open plugin windows. So when I load a new plugin on a channel, that will open up the plugin and appear on the screen. If this feature is off, the plugin will simply load on the channel and won't appear on the screen, and you will have to open it manually. Next tab is record, warp, and launch. This tab is very important for every music producer. Although we'll be having a brief discussion over this topic in our upcoming sessions, I will quickly guide to set up your preferences for recording or exporting audio. Under the record section here, the first thing is file type. There are two different types of files. One is WAV, the other one is AIFF. Waves is a Windows file, AIFF is Apple audio file. You can select either one of this according to your preferences. I'm going to select AIFF as my preferred audio type as I'm working on a Mac OS or Apple computer. Okay, so the next thing that we have here is bit depth. Ableton recommends you to have 24-bit depth for the output audio, and I'm going to leave it just the way it is. The next thing is count in. 2 bars is selected over here. Every time recording is armed on a track, it will wait for 2 bars to start the recording process. As you can see here, that means you'll have a buffer time of 2 bars. I have set this to 2 bars, and you can select either one of this according to your preferences. Let's go back to the preferences. The next thing we have is exclusive, arm and solo. When this feature or switch is active or enabled, you can arm or solo multiple tracks by pressing Command key on the keyboard. As you can see here, I can solo multiple tracks. Let's go back to preferences. Clips update rate. It is set to 1 by 16. It's nothing but the refresh rate while recording clips. We'll not be using this feature during regular practice, but I hope it's clear. Record session automation in ARM tracks is now selected here. You can switch it to all tracks. When this feature is active, automation can be recorded only on ARM tracks in the session view. Otherwise, automation will be recorded on all the clips that are playing in the session view. Okay, let's go to the next thing that we have here, that is start playback with record. When this feature is turned on, playback will immediately start when record button is pressed from the arrangement window. As you can see here, playback has started. Okay, let's go back to preferences. Warp fade section. Loop/warp short samples is the first thing you will see here. Auto is selected by default, but there are few options in the drop down menu. But first we need to learn what warp means, and it will be covered in the upcoming session. For now, we'll leave it just the way it is. Auto warp long samples. This feature is turned on and it will automatically warp long samples and set the warp markers. Default warp mode. Default warp mode is set to beats. There are few options here as well. Beats, tones, texture, repitch, and complex. We'll go through this in our upcoming session to understand how each one of this works. Create fades on clip edges. It is turned off for now, but you can turn this on or off according to your preferences. I'm going to keep it off because it can be done manually if required. The next section we have is launch. And the first thing you'll see is default launch mode. It is set to trigger by default. There are several modes here that you can select from. This is where the launch mode is located on Ableton Live. But first we need to learn what each one of this does, and this will be covered in our upcoming sessions. Okay, so let's move ahead with default launch quantization. It is set to global and global quantization is located here on Ableton Live, and you can select either one of this according to your preferences. I will recommend you to have global selected from the drop down menu. Okay, so the next thing that we have is select on launch. It is turned on. So this will select the clip or the scene that is launched in the session view. As you can see here. Okay, let's go back to preferences. Select next scene on launch. When this feature is turned on, this will automatically select the next scene that is launched. As you can see here, I hope it's clear. Let's go back to the preferences. Start recording on scene launch. If this feature is turned on, it will start recording in armed clips when a scene is launched, as you can see here. We'll also be covering these topics extensively during session view tutorial. Tap tempo. Start playback with tap tempo. Tap is located here on Ableton Live. Let's say you don't know the exact tempo of an instrument or the beat that you have in your mind. You can simply tap on this button and Ableton will calculate the BPM or the tempo according to your tap behavior. As you can see here, the tempo is changing according to my tap behavior. Okay, let's go back to the preferences. The next thing that we have here is MIDI note drawing. In MIDI note drawing, we have draw mode with pitch lock. And as you can see here, this feature is turned on. As you can see here, the notes are now restricted to one single key track. When I press Option key, it allows me freehand melodic drawings without restricting it to a specific key. Okay, that concludes everything. If you have any questions, you can click on the Q&A tab and post your queries.
Hi, in this tutorial we'll learn to navigate in and out on Ableton Live. This is what Ableton Live looks like when it appears on your screen. On the top left corner over here, this is called the tempo area or the tempo section. Assuming that you know what link follow external sync tap switch is, I'm going to skip that part. This is where Ableton will display the global tempo of a particular project. As you can see, it is set to 130 BPM. I can adjust the tempo by simply clicking here and scrolling it upwards or downwards to set the desired tempo. Or I can simply type in the desired tempo that I want and press enter. Right next to it, there are nudge options, time signature, metronome, and global quantization. Next to the tempo area, this section over here is called the transport area. This is the follow action switch over here. When this switch is enabled, Ableton will start behaving according to your follow action preferences. Right next to it is the beat clock. Then you have 3 buttons over here, as you can see: play, stop, and record. Next to it, you have plenty of options to manipulate a MIDI clip or a scene in the session window. Next to it is the loop area, from where you can set your loop, and you can enable or disable loop selection by simply clicking here on this particular switch. And you can also press Command and L from the arrangement window to enable your loop selection. Here, the next switch that we have is draw mode switch. When this particular switch is enabled, you can start drawing automation in the MIDI clip or the arrangement window. There are several ways to enable draw mode. You can right click here in the MIDI clip and select or deselect draw mode to enable or disable draw mode. Or you can simply press B from your computer keyboard to enable or disable draw mode. The next switch over here is the computer keyboard switch. When this switch is enabled, you can start writing MIDI from your computer keyboard. As you can see here, I can now write MIDI from my computer keyboard. Right next to the computer keyboard switch, there is a key mapping switch over here. When this particular switch is enabled, you can assign any parameter from Ableton Live to your computer keyboard. Let's say I want to assign this particular MIDI clip to the numeric key 0. All I have to do is select this MIDI clip first and press 0 when key mapping is enabled. And now when I press the numeric key 0 from my computer, this particular clip will start to play, as you can see. Okay. Next is the MIDI mapping switch. When this particular switch is enabled, you can assign any of these parameters to your MIDI controller or MIDI device. Let's see how it's done. Let's say I want to assign this particular parameter to my MIDI controller. I'm going to select this parameter over here, go back to my MIDI controller and tweak the knob or the fader that I want this particular parameter to be assigned to. So as you can see, this is now assigned to a fader on my control surface. Now I can start controlling this particular volume control knob from my fader, as you can see here. Okay. This is where Ableton will display the CPU usage. This is also called the CPU usage meter. You can enable the CPU usage meter from the drop down menu over here by clicking here on enable CPU meter. You can also configure your audio input settings and output settings.
Hi, in this tutorial we'll learn to navigate in and out on Ableton Live. This is what Ableton Live looks like when it appears on your screen. On the top left corner over here, this is called the tempo area. Assuming that you know what link follow tap switch is, I'm going to skip that part. Here, Ableton will display the global tempo of a project. Right now, it is set to 130 BPM, and you can adjust the tempo by clicking here in this area and scrolling it downwards or upwards. Or you can simply type in your desired tempo and press enter. Right next to it, you have nudge switches over here. Then you have time signature, metronome, and global quantization. Next to the tempo area, this is where transport section is, or this is called the transport area. The first switch over here is called follow action switch. When this switch is enabled, Ableton will behave according to your follow action preferences. This is where the beat clock is displayed on Ableton Live. Right next to it, you have three buttons over here: play, stop, and record. Next to it, you have plenty of options to manipulate MIDI track or a MIDI clip in the session window. Next to it, you have the loop area where you can set your loop from here, and you can enable or disable your loop selection by clicking here on this particular switch. Or you can simply press Command L from the arrangement window to enable your loop selection. Here on the top right corner, as you can see, there are a few switches over here. The first switch is the draw mode switch. When this switch is enabled, you can start drawing automation on a particular clip or in the arrangement window, as you can see here. You can enable this draw mode switch by simply right clicking on this clip and selecting or deselecting draw mode from here. Or you can simply press B on your computer keyboard and draw mode will now be enabled. The next switch here is the computer keyboard switch. When this switch is enabled, you can start drawing or writing MIDI notes on a particular MIDI clip. As you can see here, this is now enabled. I'm quickly going to go here on the MIDI track. And as you can see here, I can now start writing MIDI notes from my computer keyboard. We'll cover these topics extensively during our MIDI session. The next switch here is the key switch. When this switch is enabled, you can assign any of these parameters to a specific key on your keyboard. Let's say I want to assign this MIDI clip to my computer keyboard. I'm going to select this MIDI clip here and press any key on my computer keyboard. As you can see, now this MIDI clip is assigned to the numeric key 0 on my computer keyboard. When I press 0 on my computer keyboard, this clip will start to play. Okay. The next switch here is the MIDI switch. When I enable this particular switch, as you can see, there are several parameters that are highlighted. Let's say I want to assign this volume control fader to a specific fader on my MIDI device. I'm going to select this fader over here and go back to my MIDI device and tweak the fader that I want this particular parameter to be assigned to. As you can see here, this fader is now assigned to a fader on my MIDI device. Now I can control this parameter from my MIDI controller. As you can see here, okay, this is where Ableton will display the CPU usage. This is also called the CPU usage meter. In the drop-down menu, there are several options here, and you can also configure your audio inputs and outputs from the drop-down menu. On the left-hand side over here, this is called the browser window. All the sounds, drums, instruments, audio effects, MIDI effects, Max for Live, plugins, clips, samples, grooves, templates will be listed over here. This is the search bar for the browser window, and you can search any of your sounds, instruments, audio effects, samples, MIDI effects, plugins by simply typing in your search over here. This is where you'll have the preview of the sound. As you can see here, this over here is the session view on Ableton. This is also called the live window or the mixer window. Okay, so now here, if you want to create or insert a MIDI track or audio track, you can do it by right clicking here, insert audio track or MIDI track. Or you can simply press Command T on your computer keyboard to create a new audio track, or Command Shift T to create a new MIDI track, as you can see here. To create a return track, you can simply right click here and insert return track. Or you can press Command Option T on your computer keyboard to create a new return track, as you can see here. Okay. So now as you can see, on every individual channel or a track, you have few options over here. So as you can see, on a MIDI track, you have MIDI from all instruments. So whenever you're recording a particular MIDI clip, it will be recording from all the instruments that are connected to your computer. And as you can see, you can configure the inputs from here, and I'm going to select all channels from here. Let's say I have two different MIDI devices connected to my computer, and I want to record MIDI clips from both of it at once. So I can simply select all channels from here. Monitoring is set to auto as of now, as you can see here, and the MIDI output is going to no output. Okay, and that's because you do not have any instrument over here. So let's say you want to add an instrument to a MIDI track. I'm quickly going to go here in the browser window, select the instruments folder, and select the instrument that I want. Okay, so let's say I want to add electric on my MIDI track. So as you can see here, the instrument is now added on the MIDI track that I have. Similarly, you can add audio effects from here. Now, as you can see here, the audio is now
going to master. Okay, all the return tracks that you have created will be shown over here on the right side. As you can see, it is labeled as A reverb and B delay. And these two knobs over here represents the return tracks that we have in the project. As you can see, it is labeled as A, B. This is the volume control fader over here. As you can see, this over here is the panning knob. You can pan your audio to left or right according to your preferences. You can deactivate the track by clicking here. This switch over here is to solo a particular track. That means only this track will be played. This over here is the record button. Okay. On the extreme right side of the session view, there's a track that is labeled as master. This is the master track. Everything that you have in the session will be going to this particular track. And this will be the combination of all the tracks that you have here, including the return tracks. Now, if you're looking at this switch over here with three horizontal lines is to toggle between session view and arrangement view. When I click here, it will take me to the arrangement view. As you can see here, this is what arrangement view looks like. So the two tracks that we have will be listed over here. This is the scrub area over here, and this is the time ruler. On a MIDI track, you can simply double click to create a new MIDI clip. And to record audio here, you can start recording by arming this record button and by clicking here, as you can see. The return tracks will be listed over here, and the master track is over here. Arrangement window is the time-based window. As you can see, you can arrange your tracks from here. And there is a key command to toggle between arrangement window and session window. You can press tab on your computer to toggle between these two views. As you can see here, that concludes everything. This is all you need to know about navigation for now. See you in the next tutorial.
In this tutorial, we'll learn everything about clips and scenes. That includes creating MIDI and audio clips, writing notes on a MIDI clip, adding notes to an existing MIDI clip, recording automation on a clip, clip properties, follow action settings, launch mode, and we'll also learn to draw envelopes and record automation. Let's get started. This is the session view or live view on Ableton Live. Let's begin with creating a MIDI track. There are several ways to create a new MIDI track. You can either press Command, Shift, T from your computer keyboard, or right click anywhere in the session view and select Insert MIDI track. Okay, now that we have a MIDI track over here, Let's learn to add a synthesizer or sound on the MIDI track that we have just created. You can type in your search here in the browser window and import an instrument or sound by double clicking on it. Or you can simply drag a particular instrument or sound to this area. Now let's see how we can create a MIDI clip on a particular track in the session view. There are several ways to create a MIDI clip. You can double click here in this area to create a new MIDI clip, or right click in this area and select create a MIDI clip, or simply select the area and press Command Shift and M to create one. Now that we have created a MIDI clip, let's see what's in there. When you select a particular MIDI clip, the selected clip will be shown here. This area is called the clip view on Ableton Live. Or this is the area where the clip will be shown on Ableton Live. This is the piano roll where you can write or draw MIDI notes. To write MIDI notes, you can simply double click on the desired key and grid and a MIDI note will be created. Or you can simply press B on your computer keyboard to enable draw mode, or right click in the clip view and select draw mode to start drawing or writing MIDI notes here in the clip view. You can adjust the note length by simply clicking here and dragging it horizontally just like this. Now let's say you have a MIDI device connected to your computer and you want to record MIDI notes from the MIDI device. All you have to do is arm this track and press here in the clip area. Ableton will create a new MIDI clip and start recording MIDI notes from the MIDI device that is connected to your computer. This is how you can create a MIDI clip on Ableton Live. Now let's learn to add notes on an existing MIDI clip that we have. But first, we'll learn few switches that Ableton has in the transport area. This section over here has few options to manipulate a MIDI clip. Let's see what each one of this does. The first switch in the transport area with a plus sign is the overwrite or overdub switch. When this switch is enabled along with the record switch, you can start writing MIDI notes to an existing MIDI clip without deleting or erasing the previous notes that you have in the clip. Right next to it you have arm automation switch. When this switch is enabled along with the record switch, you can start drawing automation to the selected clip in the session view. Then you have re-enable automation switch. Next to it, let's say the automated parameter is tweaked from Ableton or the controller. This switch will be highlighted to indicate you that automated parameters are disabled temporarily. You can enable the automation by simply clicking on this particular switch here. Right next to it, we have capture MIDI. Let's say you're working on a tune on a MIDI device and you want that tune to be listed on the track in the form of a MIDI clip. You can do that by simply clicking here on the capture MIDI switch. And then you have the record switch. This switch is very important if you want to use these features on Ableton Live. Now we can go ahead and add MIDI notes to an existing MIDI track. Let's say for instance I want to add MIDI notes to one of the clips here. The first step is to enable the overdub switch along with the record switch in the transport area. Now arm the track and start playing notes that you want to add. As you can see, I can now add MIDI notes to an existing MIDI clip from my MIDI device or computer keyboard. This is how you can add MIDI notes to an existing MIDI clip. Now we'll learn to record automation on a clip. Recording automation on a clip is very simple. Let's say I want to draw or write automation to one of these clips here. All I have to do is enable the automation switch along with the record switch in the transport area and then arm the track and tweak the parameter that needs to be automated. Ableton will capture the automation behavior and we'll save it in the clip. As you can see, automation is now recorded on the clip. Now, let's learn to create audio clips in the session view. We'll first create an audio track here in the session view. You can create audio tracks by pressing Command plus T from your computer keyboard, or right click anywhere in the session view and select Insert New Audio Track. You cannot add audio clips by double clicking here in this area, and it has to be recorded from an external source that can either be an instrument or microphone. Or you can record audio from a MIDI track that we have in the session. Let's say you want to record audio from an external source. First, you need to configure the audio input settings from the preferences. I will be recording from a microphone that is connected to my audio interface, that is M-Track 2 in 2 out. Here in the preferences, I'll be selecting M-Track 2 in 2 out as my audio input device from the drop down menu. Now let's go back to the audio track that we have just created. As you can see here, the audio is coming from an external input device. You can also configure audio input settings by selecting Configure from the drop down menu. Audio input is set to first channel, as you can see here. Monitoring is turned off, and we'll keep it just the way it is to avoid feedback while recording. We can now start recording audio clips. Arm the track first and press here in the clip area to start recording clips. You can press on the stop button here to stop recording. This is how an audio clip looks like. Okay, now let's take a look at the clip properties. This is where you'll find all the properties of the selected clip. You can adjust the settings of a particular clip in this area. The next thing that you'll see is start and end points of a clip. You can adjust the start or the end point of a clip by clicking here in this area and scrolling it upwards or downwards. This is the loop switch over here. You can enable or disable the loop selection by simply clicking on this switch. Setting up a loop in a clip is easy. You can set the position and the length of the loop by clicking here in this area and scroll it upwards or downwards. Next is the signature. This is where the signature of the clip is displayed. You can adjust the signature if you want to. It will be set to the global signature that you have over here by default. In the next tab, the first switch that you have is the follow action switch. Follow action in the clips are different from the one in the arrangement window. You can enable or disable the follow action switch by simply clicking here. This is where the list of actions are. You can select either one of this according to your preferences. If you select stop from the drop down menu, then the clip will stop after playing it once. If you select play again, the clip will play again and again until it is stopped. If you select previous clip will be played. If you select next, the next clip will be played after playing this one. If you select first, it will play the first clip in the track. If you select last, it will play the last clip in the track. If you select any, it will play any clip within the track. If you select other, it will play any other clip in the track. If you select jump, it will skip a clip. You can set the number of clips you want to skip from this area over here. As you can see, you can set two different follow action settings at the same time and toggle between the two with the help of the crossfader located over here. Next is the link switch. When this link switch is enabled, follow action will be linked to the value selected here. It is set to 1x by default, and that means clips will play once before follow action takes over. You can change the values by clicking here and scrolling it upwards or downwards, just like this. You can unlink by clicking here on this switch and set the bars you want a particular clip to be played before follow action takes over. Next here is launch modes. As you can see, there are several modes to select from: trigger, gate, toggle, repeat. So when it is set to trigger, clip will play when clips are triggered, and it will stop when you press the stop button over here. Next is gate. When it is set to gate, clip will play when you press on the play button and stop when released. When it is set to toggle, clip will play when you click on the play button and will stop when you click on the play button again. When it is set to repeat, clicking on the clip repetitively will play the clip according to the global quantization settings. Legato. When legato is enabled on a clip, it will start playing from the previous play position. As you can see here, the clip will start playing from the place where we left. Velocity. It affects the pressure or the velocity of the notes that are coming from your MIDI device. You can set the velocity percentage in this area. MIDI bank and preset select. Let's say you have an external instrument or a synthesizer connected to your computer. Always select the bank, sub-bank and preset in this area to avoid any further losses. You can toggle between the presets by changing the program in this area. By saving the presets over here, the next time you open this project, it will automatically load the preset that was saved here and will play the same sound that was set during the production. Okay, next is the notes tab over here. This area over here shows the key range of the notes that are present in the clip. You can click here and scroll to shift the notes to a specific key or octave. The next switch over here is to double the tempo. The selected notes will shrink in the MIDI clip to double the speed. Right next to it, you have a half tempo switch. The selected notes will stretch in the MIDI clip to play at half speed. This switch over here is the reverse switch. When you hit on this button, the selected notes will reverse horizontally. Invert. When you hit on invert, selected notes will turn upside down. Then we have legato over here. The selected notes will stretch or lengthen to the starting point of the next note. Duplicate. It will duplicate the selected notes, or you can simply select the notes and press Command plus D from your computer keyboard. Randomize. Adjust the velocity and click here to change the velocity values of the selected notes. Velocity range. So you can set the velocity range over here and the values will be chosen randomly for each selected notes. As you can see here. The next tab is the envelopes or the automation tab over here. You can select the device from the drop down menu over here. This is where you can select the parameter that you want to control or automate from the drop down menu. Linked. When loop regions are linked, automation plays along with the clip. This is the loop switch for the envelopes or automation that you're going to write. This switch will be active by default. When you unlink the envelopes, you can set a separate loop for the envelopes or automation, as you can see here. This is where you can set start and end points for the automation clip. And this is where you can adjust the length of the loop. Next is the note expression tab. When this tab is selected, you can view and edit parameters like slide, pressure, aftertouch. This envelope will only be audible if you have an MPE capable instrument such as collision, electric, wavetable, simpler and sampler. Okay, that concludes everything. See you in the next tutorial.
we will be covering up follow action settings and scenes. So here, as you can see, when you select a particular track and go to this tab over here, you can enable follow action switch by clicking here. There are several options and we have covered what each one of this does. So let's say after this particular clip, I want the next clip to be played in sequence. So when I play this one, the next clip will start playing. And let's say after this one, I want any of these clips to play. So when I press here, as you can see, it will start playing any clip that is located here on that particular track. So now moving ahead with this one over here, let's say after this particular clip, I want the first clip that is in the track. So when I play this one, as you can see, it will start playing the first track. And after that, it is set to next. So as you can see, it will start playing that one. And this one has follow action settings set to any. So that means it will start playing any of these clips that are located in this particular track. So after this, there are no follow action settings over here. As you can see, follow action is not enabled. So now let me just enable the follow action for this one. And as you can see, when I play this one, it will start playing the next one. And as you can see in this particular clip, it is set to first. So it will start playing the first one. Alright, so this is all about follow action. So now let's say you want the same follow action settings for a set of clips. You can simply select all of these clips over here and enable follow action for all of them and select next for all of those clips. And on the last clip, I'm going to select first. So when I play the first one over here, as you can see, it will start playing the next one. And when it plays the next, it will start playing the next one and it will just go on just the way we have set up our clips. When it comes to the last clip over here, as you can see, it will jump to the first clip that is on that particular track. Alright, so let's say you want this particular settings to all of those tracks that you have over here. I'm quickly going to press Command A to select all of those clips over here and then switch on follow action for all of these clips over here. And I'm quickly going to select next for all of those clips. And now let's say to the last clip that I have on each one of these tracks, I'm going to set it to the first one. Alright, so when I play the last over here, it will start playing the first clip, as you can see, on each one of these tracks, and it will follow the same thing again and again until and unless we stop it. Alright, so this is all about the follow action settings that you need to know for now. Alright, moving ahead, here on the master track, as you can see, there are play buttons over here. This over here is called a scene. A scene is comprised of all the clips that are in a particular row. As you can see, when I play the first scene over here, it will start playing all the clips in that particular row. Alright, so you can also rename that particular scene by simply pressing Command R, and we can call it intro. And similarly, you can rename this one and you can call it verse over here. So now when I play the second, as you can see, it will start playing all the clips in the second row over here. And as of now, we have set up our follow action preferences and the follow action is enabled. It will start to behave according to our settings or preferences. Alright, so this is all you need to know about follow action settings and scenes on Ableton Live. See you in the next tutorial.
Hi, in this tutorial we'll learn to create drum racks and utilize the new drum rack to create a drum sequence. Let's get started. First, we'll create a MIDI track in the session view and add drum rack to it. Drum racks can be found either in the drums tab or in the instruments tab here in the browser area. You can add drum rack by double clicking on it or dragging it to this area. Now let's add samples to the drum rack that we have just created. You can add import samples from the browser here or from the finder directly to your drum rack. You can rearrange the order of the samples by dragging it to the desired place, just like this. You can rename the drum rack by pressing Command plus R from your computer keyboard to rename a particular drum rack. And by clicking here, you can save the drum rack and preserve the settings. Now let's create a MIDI clip here, and as you can see in the clip view, all the sounds that are present in the drum rack will be listed here. This will now start looking like a drum sequencer, and you can now start writing, drawing MIDI drum patterns over here. Okay, that is everything you need to know about creating drum racks. See you in the next tutorial. Hi, in this tutorial, we'll learn to create dynamic arrangements in the session view. As you can see here, there are several clips, and when I play the first one over here, it will play only the intro part that is located here in the first row. So here are the scenes on the right hand side. So let's say I want the intro scene to be played, and I only want those instruments that are going to be present in my intro section. So here I'll be placing all those instruments or the clips here in the first row, and I'll be triggering it by simply pressing this button over here. Similarly, I'll be doing the same for my intro 1.1 scene, build, drop, and the next break that I have here. Okay, so once you place all of those clips in their respective scenes, you can simply trigger those scenes by clicking here on the play button that is located on the master channel. So it is very easy and simple. Let's say you want to set up follow action settings for all the clips that are here in the session. As you can see, there are empty slots here, so you can simply double click here to create an empty MIDI clip, because if you do not have any clip here, it won't have any follow action for that particular track. So I'm going to suggest you or recommend you to create empty MIDI clips here and set your follow actions to all of those clips in order to trigger the next one without even touching your computer keyboard or any other instrument. Now let's see how this works. I will be selecting all clips from here, go to follow action settings, and it is set to next, and then unlink this and set it to 8 bars. And now I'll simply play the first one that I have here in the scenes, that is intro. Hi, in this tutorial we'll learn everything about warp modes. First, we'll record audio or import a sample to this particular track that we have here in the session view. Now select the audio clip or the sample and go to the clip properties and select this tab over here. You can enable or disable warp by simply clicking on this switch over here. There are several types of warp modes, as you can see here: beats, tone, texture, repitch, complex, and complex pro. Let's see what each one of this actually does. The first one is beats. It will play the entire beat or a sample as per our settings and the warp markers that are set in a particular audio clip or a sample. Beats has few options, as we can see here. Forward and backward arrow is set as the default setting. This means The beat will play forward and backwards between the warp markers that we have created on a clip. In this tutorial, when two arrows is selected, it will play the beat between the warp markers that we have created on a clip and continue to follow the same action for the next warp markers. When a single arrow is selected, it will play the beat to its end, but if you tweak this value over here, it will give you a pluck kind of a sound. It won't play the entire region. The next one is tones. When this is selected, Ableton will add extra tones to the sound or the beat that is between the warp markers. Here, you have an option to tweak the grain size. When tones is selected, it will chop everything between the warp markers into small grains. Then spray the grains out as designed. In this tutorial, the next one is texture. When this is selected, Ableton will add more texture to the sound or the beat that is between the warp markers. Here you have an option to tweak the grain size and flux. This will chop everything between the warp markers into small grains, then spray the grains out as designed. Flux will simply fluctuate the frequencies or the grains or the characteristics of the waveform or the beat that is between the warp markers. Next is repitch. This will adjust the pitch of the sounds that are between the warp markers. You can stretch according to your preferences. It will either play faster or slower depending on your stretch behavior.
This tutorial will be
Next is Complex and Complex Pro. You will be using this once a lot during regular practice. When this is selected, Ableton will play the audio clip without losing its original characteristics or sound. Complex Pro has formants in it, and it is recommended to set it to 100% to preserve the original characteristics. You can also select values of the envelope from this area. In this tutorial, we'll be learning about... That's everything you need to know about warp modes. See you in the next tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll learn to edit audio regions and applying fades. Let's get started. First, we'll see how to import audio clips from session window to the arrangement. I have one of my recent tracks here in the session view and will be working on it in this session. Click on the track. Now press Tab to toggle between session window and the arrangement window. Now drag it to your desired track or grid just like this. Now let's set up start point of this particular clip. Setting up a start point is easy. First, select the clip. Now create warp marker on the desired transient by pressing Command plus I from your computer keyboard. Transient is nothing but the peak point or the start point in the waveform. Ableton will automatically detect the transients and show it here in this area. Now right click on the warp marker that we just created or anywhere in this region and select Set 111 from the menu. This will now be the new start point of the track. Now let's see how to quantize a clip or a region. Press Command plus A from your computer keyboard to select all the transients and press Command plus U to quantize. Quantize will shift all the transients to the nearest grid. Now let's see the clip properties. Here in the clip properties, you can adjust the gain of a particular clip by simply turning up the gain fader. The waveform will adapt the new settings and appear bigger or smaller according to your new settings. Gain is nothing but the loudness of the track. Plus 3 dB, that is decibels, is equal to double the loudness. To preserve the tonality of the sound, I'll be changing my warp settings to complex. You can change the BPM or the tempo of the track by entering your desired tempo here or simply click and scroll upwards or downwards just like this. Right next to it, you have two switches to double the tempo or half tempo. Then you have a RAM switch to save the file on RAM to speed up the process. High Q is a high quality switch and I will always recommend you to have this switch enabled. Now let's learn to edit a clip. Editing a track or clip is simple on Ableton Live if you know these key commands. Select a region and press Command plus X from your computer keyboard to cut. And now select the grid and press Command plus V to paste. It is very simple. Now let's say you want to copy a specific region from a track. You can follow the same rule, that is select the region and press Command plus C from your computer keyboard. Now select the desired grid and press Command plus V to paste it there. Now let's say you want to duplicate a particular region or a clip. Select the region or the clip and press Command plus T to duplicate. Renaming a clip is easy on Ableton Live. Simply select the clip and press Command plus R from your computer keyboard, and now you can type a name here and press Enter to save the name. Now that we have several clips in the track, to consolidate and create one single clip, simply select the region and press Command plus J from your computer keyboard to consolidate all the clips and create one clip or a file. Now let's create fades on this particular clip. Creating fade is simple on Ableton Live and there are several ways to do it. Select this box at the start of the clip here and scroll or drag to create fade in, and similarly you can select this box at the end of the clip and drag to create a fade out. That concludes everything. See you in the next tutorial. Hi, in this tutorial we'll learn everything about recording audio and the new comping feature on Ableton Live 11. Let's get started. First, we'll learn to configure audio inputs and outputs to start the recording process. From the Live menu, go to Settings. Now select Audio tab, and as you can see here, Core Audio will be the default driver type if you have an Apple computer, and ASIO for Windows. Now select the audio input device from the drop-down menu. All the devices will be listed here. I have a microphone connected to M-Track 2 and 2 out, and I will be selecting that. You can select your input device that is connected to your computer, or select built-in microphone from the drop-down menu to start recording from the built-in microphone that comes along with your computer. Now let's select the audio output device. You can select the audio output device from the drop-down menu. I have my monitor speakers connected to M-Track 2 and 2 out, and I will be selecting that. Now that we have configured our audio settings, we are all set to record audio tracks from an external source. Follow the steps carefully to record audio from an external instrument or microphone. First, we'll arm the audio track and click on the record capture button here in the clip region to start recording audio clips from our external device. You can follow the same steps to record or capture multiple audio clips on a track. Now let's see how we can record audio in the arrangement view. Recording in the arrangement window is simple and easy. Follow the steps carefully to record or capture audio clips in the arrangement window. Let's say we want to record or capture audio on this track. First, we'll arm the track and click anywhere in this area to set a start point for the recording. Now simply click on the record button in the transport area and Ableton will start recording in the arrangement view from the external instrument or the microphone that is connected to your computer. Now let's take a look at the new comping feature. You can now record multiple passes of an audio or MIDI track and then choose the best parts from each take to create a composite track. You can insert multiple take lanes on a track by pressing Option Shift T from your computer keyboard or right click on the track and select Insert Take Lane. Now follow the same rule to start recording on the new take lanes that we have just created. That concludes everything. See you in the next tutorial. Hi, in this tutorial we'll learn everything about MIDI programming and virtual instruments. That includes introduction to MIDI, setting up MIDI devices, creating MIDI tracks and virtual instruments, programming MIDI patterns and melodies, working with MIDI effects and arpeggiators, and mapping MIDI controllers for expressive performances. Let's get started. What is MIDI? What is the definition of MIDI? MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. It is the digital communication language that is a protocol developed to send and receive music performance data to and from electronic music instruments. With the recent development in computer technology and internet, MIDI became a simple and practical means to provide musical information because of the low data bandwidth it requires. It is important though to note that MIDI does not transmit audio and MIDI is not digital audio. Before MIDI, the old analog synthesizers used a system called control voltage, that is referred as CV, to exchange information between devices. MIDI was invented in 1982. A group formed by several electronic musical instrument manufacturers like Yamaha, Roland, Korg Sequential Circuits, and Kawai got together to develop a standardized protocol that can be used as communication interface and to be used by every electronic musical instrument manufacturers. The first synthesizer to be released with MIDI were with Yamaha and Sequential Circuits. Currently, there are two main associations that regulate the MIDI standards: MMA, that stands for MIDI Manufacturers Association from United States of America. The other one is JMSC, Japanese MIDI Standard Committee from Japan. Now let's see the type of MIDI connections. The MIDI standard uses a DIN, that's Deutsche Industry Norm connector, with 5 pins distributed over an angle of 180 degrees. From the 5 pins, only 2 are used so far to convey information. Every MIDI instrument will have at least 2 connectors: MIDI in, where MIDI information is received by the MIDI device, and MIDI out, where performance data generated in the device is sent out. In case MIDI information needs to be passed from first receiving module to the third, another type of connector is needed. This type of connector is called MIDI through. It retransmits the information received at the input, making it available to the next device in the chain. Although we don't have to worry about this kind of connections these days, but it is always better to know where all of these things came from. The new MIDI devices comes with a USB connection and works much more faster than the traditional ones. Now let's look at the performance parameters. A MIDI instrument converts performance actions into digital information and back. The most common information recognized and transmitted by MIDI are: note on indicates that a key was pressed, note number indicates which key was pressed, velocity indicates how hard or fast a key was pressed, note off indicates that a key was released, program number indicates which sound is to be used to play the note, pitch bend slides the pitch of the note, MIDI channel, on which channel should the note be played. This information is converted into binary code and sent to the MIDI output. Globally, messages sent by MIDI devices can be divided into two types: channel messages and system messages. Channel messages are addressed to a specific MIDI channel, so only devices set to react to that channel will respond to it. The others will ignore it completely. Channel messages can be note on, note off, polyphonic pressure or aftertouch, control change, program change, and channel pressure. System messages are addressed to all channels and contain general commands such as reset, MIDI, tempo. All devices in the chain prepared to recognize them will respond. There are 16 MIDI channels with MIDI protocol. However, some hardware devices allow multiple streams of MIDI data, each using a separate output. This allows for tens and even hundreds of MIDI channels. If you have a very complex studio MIDI setting with multiple MIDI keyboards and MIDI instruments, each instrument will have its own channel, and each keyboard will control the instrument whose MIDI channel matches its setting. Now, let's take a look at the MIDI modes. Mono or poly. Mono is an abbreviation for monophonic, and poly stands for polyphonic. This set the number of voices or notes an instrument will produce at once. Some synthesizer, usually old ones, are monophonic by its nature and can never be set to polyphonic. In mono mode, an instrument will end the previous note before producing the new one. This is useful when we want to imitate a monophonic real instrument like woodwinds, which will also sound more realistic and give better hand ear reaction for the musician. While poly mode is good for general polyphonic instruments like piano and polyphonic synths, for instance. Moreover, monophonic mode is the sense making situation to apply glide, which smooths the change of pitch between different notes. For example, glide imitates the sliding effect in violin. Now let's take a look at sequencer. Sequencer is a device able to record and play back a MIDI data stream. There are basically three types of sequencers. One is hardware based. It is usually a standalone box with dedicated CPU exclusive for recording, storing, and manipulating MIDI data. Next is built in. It is the combination of synthesizers, samplers with a hardware sequencer. The next one is software based. It will use our computer's CPU to run a specific software that performs sequencing. One of the great features of sequencers is the capacity to alter a MIDI performance in order to correct mistakes or create a new performance out of a radically different original. Examples of processing are cut, copy, paste, loop, transpose, change tempo or signature, change velocity, edit notes, and quantize. Quantization refers to the act of forcing events played to fall on the nearest beat specified. Over quantization will make a performance sound robotic. To reduce the mechanical feel of quantization, some devices provide a progressive quantization, just like this. You can simply right click here in the clip view and select quantize settings, and you can change the value of the quantization from here. Arpeggiators. Arpeggiator is a MIDI processor that takes in multiple MIDI notes at the same time and distributes them across time in a broken chord fashion. MIDI can be used for other applications as well, that is show control, theater lighting, special effects, sound design, console automation, recording system synchronization, audio processor control, computer animation, and animatic figure control. That concludes everything. See you in the next tutorial.
Hi, in this tutorial we'll learn everything about MIDI programming and virtual instruments. First, let's set up our MIDI device and configure the MIDI input settings. Click on the Live menu and select Settings or Preferences. Now, click on the Link Tempo MIDI tab. All the MIDI devices connected to your computer will automatically be listed here in this area. If not, you can select the MIDI device from the drop down menu just like this. Here in this section, you can configure input and output for your MIDI device. All of this should be enabled for the input and output settings for the device that is connected to your computer. When track switch is enabled, you can write MIDI notes from the device that is connected. When disabled, you cannot write MIDI notes on a MIDI clip or a MIDI track. Sync. When sync switch is enabled, it will synchronize all our MIDI devices to Ableton Live's settings such as tempo, signature, quantization, etc. The next switch is remote. When this switch is enabled, you can use your MIDI device as a controller to tweak any selected parameter. And this area will indicate that a signal is received or identified by your computer. The next switch is MPE. When this switch is enabled, it will receive information like slide, polypressure or aftertouch, pitch and velocity for every note that is played from MPE capable device. MPE stands for MIDI polyphonic expression. Ableton Live now has fifth tab, that is MIDI polyphonic expression tab, that is located in the clip properties over here. This tab will contain all the information related to MIDI polyphonic expression. If you don't have a MPE enabled device, you can draw your own pattern here to manipulate the MIDI data. Now let's start off with creating a MIDI track here in the session view. The key command is Command plus Shift plus T to create a new MIDI track. Now that we have a MIDI track right in front of us, let's add a sound or an instrument to the track that we have just created. For now, I'm going to keep it simple and I will be adding Ableton Live's built-in instrument or sound to the track that we have just created. I can type in the search here in the browser window and double click to add that instrument to this track here or drag a specific sound or instrument in this area. Now let's start recording MIDI clips from an external MIDI device. I have push to and Novation launch key connected to my computer and I will be using it for the entire session. If you have a push device connected to your computer, simply press the record button from your push device and start playing. Ableton will capture the MIDI data from your push device and create a new clip with all the information received from the push device that includes note on, note off, note number, velocity, pitch, etc. As you can see here in the clip properties, we have all of that information. Now let's see if we can change the instrument or the sound that we have on this track. There are endless possibilities with Ableton Live's built-in instruments. Simply drag and drop any instrument here to change the sound or the instrument that is loaded on the track. If you have any VST or AU plugins in your computer, it will be listed in the plugins tab located here in the browser. Double click on the VST plugin or simply drag and drop to add the plugin to your desired track. If you don't have any VST plugins, don't worry. Ableton has wide range of sounds and the built-in instruments has everything you need to finish a track. For learning purpose, I'll recommend you to download free plugins or trial version of any plugin you know from their respective websites. This will give you an idea of how it actually works. For example, I have downloaded Vital, that's a free plugin to show you the step-by-step process to install any plugins you download.
It's everything.
Hi, in this tutorial we'll learn to record and edit MIDI on Ableton Live. I have two different tracks over here. One is audio, the other one is MIDI. And I have external MIDI device connected to the computer. So I will be recording MIDI notes from the external device that is connected. Now, to get started, I want to instrument on this particular track. And I will be selecting FM Piano Simple on the MIDI track that is listed over here. Alright, to record MIDI from the external device that is connected to my computer, I simply have to press the record button over here and start playing from the external MIDI device. Okay, now I have the MIDI notes recorded or captured from the MIDI device. Now I'm going to select all of the MIDI notes that are here in the clip view and simply press left or right to rearrange or place it here in the clip view. So I'm going to place it at the very start of this particular clip, that is also called as the start point of the clip. And now let me play the clip that is recorded and let's see how it sounds. It is not on the grid, it is not in sync with the global tempo that we have. That means we have to quantize the MIDI notes that are present here in the MIDI clip. So now I'm simply going to select all of the notes that are present here and press Command plus U from my computer keyboard. And now it does not sound that good, so I simply have to go back to my previous setting and rearrange the MIDI notes manually. Okay, so as you can see here on the left hand side, we have several options here. We can set up our start points and or the end points, or we can enable the loop selection that we have out here for the clip. We also have several settings that we can select from. That is, we can also select the scale that we want and we can shift the notes accordingly. Here in the notes tab, we have several options. Let's see what each one of this does. By scrolling it upwards or downwards, it will simply transpose the entire MIDI clip. Or if you want a specific note to be transposed, you can do that by selecting a specific MIDI note. Okay, let me play the MIDI clip once again, and I'm going to press on this switch over here, that is half tempo. Now let's see what this switch does. This will double the tempo. Now let's see what reverse switch does. It will reverse the switch horizontally, and I think we have covered the topic. Now let's see what invert switch does. This will invert the clip upside down. Now let's see what legato switch does. When you hit on legato, it will automatically stretch the notes to the starting point of the next note, as you can see here. Now let's see what duplicate does. It will simply duplicate the selected region or the selected notes And we have velocity options out here. You can simply select the value of the velocity that needs to be manipulated and click here. It will automatically change the velocities of the notes that have been pressed from the external MIDI device. Or you can simply change the velocity here. You feel it? Alright. Now let's take a look at the groove option over here. Ableton has bunch of grooves listed here in the browser window. As you can see here, we have a grooves tab out here and there are several options you can select from. So now that I have selected this particular clip, I can simply press this button over here and select any groove that I want. You can simply change the grooves n number of times and it will be listed over here. Alright, this is what groove does. We'll learn everything about arpeggiators. Let's get started. Arpeggiator is located here in the MIDI effects tab. The first thing that you will see is arpeggiator. Simply double click on arpeggiator to load on a particular channel or the channel that is selected in the session view. As you can see here, I have arpeggiator loaded onto this particular track. The first thing that you will see here is the style. There are several styles to select from and you can select any one of this according to your preferences. For now, I'm going to select Converge to keep it simple. The next thing that we have here is Groove. Groove, there are several options here as well. As you can see, straight, swing 8, swing 16, swing 32. If you keep it straight, swing will not affect the values of the MIDI notes. To be very specific, it won't affect the velocity or it won't affect the tonality of the sound or it won't affect the pattern of that particular MIDI clip. Right next to it, we have the hold switch. When this particular switch is enabled, arpeggiator will keep playing until a key is pressed on your MIDI device. Okay, right next to it, you have an offset knob. You can tweak the offset knob to plus or minus 8 places. So whatever sequence we have or whatever pattern we have, it will be shifted to plus 8 places or minus 8 places. So that's the maximum number of places that you can shift with this particular knob out here. The next thing that you see here is the sync switch. When this particular switch is enabled, it is enabled by default anyways, but when this particular switch is enabled, the arpeggiation style or the pattern will be synced to the signature and the tempo of the project. When this particular switch is disabled, it is free now and it won't be synced to the tempo or the signature of the project. Moving ahead, we have the rate knob out here. Rate is nothing but the speed of the arpeggiation. So as you can see, it is set to 1/8 by default and you can change the speed by turning it towards the left hand side. Now let's see how fast it is going to play if I select 1/16 from here. Alright, the next knob that we have here is gate knob. Gate acts like decay in arpeggiator. When gate value is set to 1, that means it is going to be a short decay, and when the gate value is set to 200%, that means it is going to have a long decay or long release. Retrigger has two options and it will totally depend on beat or the note. We can also manipulate or tweak the speed. When it is set to 1/16, it will re-trigger the same beat again and again, as you can see here. When it is set to note, so it will particularly have all of those notes that are present in that MIDI clip. Alright, right next to it we have repeat option over here. So it will repeat the pattern depending on the value that we set here. Let's say we set 1 over here, it is going to repeat only once. And if we set to 16, it is going to keep repeating until 16 times. And then it may change according to the settings that we have. The next thing is transpose over here. Transpose will simply transpose the MIDI clip to a specific key irrespective of what you have in there in the MIDI clip itself. So now let's say I want major and I want all of those keys to be shifted to A, and I can simply select the steps that I want, and the distance means nothing, it's the range or the distance between steps. Alright, so let's quickly check how it's going to sound if we change it to A major. This is what transpose does, and you can simply manipulate the MIDI data that you have by using this particular option out here on arpeggiator. Okay, when this switch is enabled, arpeggiator will take control of the velocity that is present in the clips or that is recorded in the clips. Alright, that's everything you need to know about arpeggiators. Hi, in this tutorial we'll learn the MIDI effect called chord. Let's see how chord works. I'm going to add chord into this channel out here. Okay, so the basic idea of having chord on your MIDI track is to play multiple notes by simply hitting one key on your MIDI device. Now let's see how it is done. I have a basic tune right here. And with the help of chord, I can add multiple notes to the tune that I have just played. So let's say I want thirds and the fifth to be played along with the key that I'm going to press from my MIDI controller. I can simply turn the knob here and I'm going to select +3 and +5 respectively on each one of these knobs. And now let's see how it sounds. It's not sounding that well, so I'm simply going to tweak it to 5 and this one up to 7 or 8 maybe, and let's see how it sounds now. This one is not interesting either. Now let's see how it sounds. It is going to play the fifths and the ninths along with the key that I'm going to press on my MIDI keyboard. Alright, this sounds perfectly fine, and you can select the settings according to your preferences, and here in the chord section you have several presets to select from. You simply have to select any one of these presets and you can start playing from your MIDI controller or the keyboard that you have in your studio. Okay, in this tutorial we are going to learn the MIDI effect called envelope on Ableton Live. Envelope will be located here in the MIDI effects. We have already covered arpeggiator and chord. Now it's time for envelope. Envelope is nothing but it's the packaging of the audio waveform or the parameter that we are going to select. So now here, this is the MIDI effect. I'm quickly going to double click here and this is what envelope looks like. As you can see here, we have several parameters. Let's see what each one of this does. Before we proceed further, I would like to tell you that this is a MIDI effect. It does not have any sound in it. So I'm quickly going to map this particular MIDI effect to a parameter from the operator synthesizer that we have out here. So I'm going to select the volume control knob. As you can see here, volume control knob has been selected to control from the envelope MIDI effect. Let's get started. The first thing that you see here is the amount. Amount is nothing but the value of envelope that is going to act upon the parameter that is selected here. So now it is set to 100%. That means whatever we set over here, that is going to affect the volume control knob 100%. So now let's go ahead and see what attack is. Attack is nothing but the time taken to reach its peak value. So now as you can see here, it is set to 5 milliseconds. That means when I play a particular MIDI clip, the sound is going to reach its peak value after 5 milliseconds. Let's see how it sounds. This is an example of fast attack. Now let's see how it sounds when I tweak this particular knob up to 1 second. This is what attack does to the sound or the parameter that has been selected. Now let's go ahead and see what decay is. But before we proceed further, I would like to change the value of sustain and release so that we understand decay in a very well manner. Short decay means it will give you a click kind of a sound. It will reach the sustain value within no time, that is 333 milliseconds. It's reaching the sustain level that is set to 0 decibels for now in 1 milliseconds, as you can see here. Alright, now let's go ahead and see what sustain is. But first we are going to tweak it back to 333 milliseconds to understand how sustain works. So now that we have a short decay and the sustain value is set to 0, so after decay it's not going to play any sound as such. So now when I tweak this particular knob, it is going to sustain at minus 8 decibels. Now let's see how it sounds. Makes sense, right? Let's go ahead and see what release is. Release is nothing but it's the time taken after you release the note to end that particular sound. So if you have release set to 1 milliseconds, that means when you release a particular note, it will stop playing automatically. Now let's see how it sounds. Now let's see what happens if the release is set to 5 seconds or even more than that. As you can see here, the sound that I'm playing is traveling towards sustain, and it will sustain for some time, and when I release the note, it is going to play for some more time. Alright, so we also have velocity out here. Velocity can be changed from here, and it will also change the curve of this thing. As you can see here, and then you can set the release curve from here. Tutorial will learn to create this kind of effect on Ableton Live. Let's get started. I'm going to create a MIDI track out here. On this particular MIDI track, I'm quickly going to load a sample. It can be any sample that you want for this particular effect. For now, I'm going to keep it simple and use a kick that I have. I'm going to load this sample out here by simply double clicking. It will load on that particular track in the form of simpler. As you can see here, snap switch is enabled out here. I'm quickly going to disable that and enable the loop selection that we have for this particular clip. And now I'm simply going to automate the length of this particular clip to have the desired sound. Now let's see how it is done. First, I'll create a MIDI clip out here. And add a note. that is long enough to serve the purpose. Now let's automate this particular parameter here in the clip view. Go to the automation tab. You can also reverse the effect. This is how it is done on Simpler.